Hello, and thank you for joining us at the Careers Employability Services introduction to the top 10 employability skills. These are the top 10 skills as identified by graduate employers. In the following short video, we'll be looking at one of those top 10 skills and attributes, in this case, enterprising. So within the Careers and Employability Services at University of Greater Manchester, we have placed this research and the top 10 skills into what we've called the GAME icon. This stands for Graduates Attributes Matrix for Employability. And as you can see, enterprising is one of those top 10 skills within there. What's useful to remember is that these skills and attributes do not work in isolation. They often need to work in collaboration with those other top skills as well. So what are enterprising skills or entrepreneurial skills, and why are they important? Well, they really do demonstrate your ability to create opportunities, which in turn gives you evidence and examples of your innovation, your proactivity, and initiative. And what can often come from that is work and collaboration and teamwork, where you're able to demonstrate and develop your risk awareness, your decision making, and your ability to do that at speed, and ultimately problem solving abilities as well, which is ultimately very important for any employer or recruiter across a whole range of work sectors. So it is valued and it is asked for from employers. So you do need to think about how you can make the most of opportunities or create opportunities in order to demonstrate your examples and evidence of this. So anything that helps you to show how you've adapted to change, or your ability to show or support others, in turn, your leadership and project-based skills are always of great importance. And it also demonstrates how you have developed your awareness, your knowledge and skills, but also your resilience and professional confidence in whatever environments you may work in or choose to work in the future. And these are all very transferable skills, which are highly valued across every work sector. So what could you be doing? We'll look at some of the opportunities you may well be able to get involved in at the university, but also some examples of what you could be using outside of the university and your degree studies as well. So do get involved in projects, and these might be projects that you're doing as part of your current studies. It could be something that you are interested in and get involved in societies, perhaps within the student union or in your own local communities. Any opportunity to work in work-based learning, whether that be on-site or remote learning opportunities, they all have a purpose and you can gain an awful lot from them. So think about volunteering, for example, or going on placement or an internship or a remote internship for a particular project that you're interested in. And we'll look at maybe ways that you're able to find or identify those in this short video. Essentially, you're looking for ways to show how you have been proactive and how you've developing your skills and attributes. So what kind of key things could you be looking at? Well, here's a few suggestions on the screen now. You want to be using things which maybe you're already currently involved with or have been in the past, but looking for potential opportunities to develop that further, such as I mentioned, placements or internships, volunteering, getting involved in extracurricular activities. Perhaps you join membership for a particular professional body or a team or a society. Maybe there's projects even going on within your own departments at the university that you can get involved with. Even so, there's ones that outside where you might be able to search for as well. Here's a few suggestions in terms of things and platforms that you could be tapping into as we speak now. we have Forage, for example. So if you're interested in looking at job simulations and example projects, but you haven't got maybe the time to be going on campus, then this is a good remote opportunity to get involved with those types of projects. LinkedIn is a fantastic platform when used well to find connections to groups, networks, and potential project ideas as well. If any of you are wanting to use LinkedIn and develop your connections and networks through that platform, do come into the career service. We will be able to support you with that. There's placement opportunity platforms like Reach Volunteering, Do It, Bolton CVS. They all help try and match your interests, your skills to potential placements and volunteer work. And you have Student Hub itself, which is our career platform, where we do post any events, workshops, networking events, jobs, voluntary work on that platform as well. So it's a useful thing to be tapping into. Also, we have within the university and within Student Hub as well, you can gain access to a wide range of activities called the Career Passport. This is an opportunity for you to look at areas of interest or skill development that you wish to show evidence for and get involved with certain activities and tasks which will help demonstrate and develop those for you. We also have a whole network of employability workshops. They could be internal within the university, they could be external, and they are regularly posted under the events section on Student Hub as well. Eventbrite is a useful platform to look at what's going on in your own communities or nearby, what forums are working, what training may there be, what projects might you be able to get involved with. So these are all good, useful platforms to be pulling on and developing your skills with. Another area you could explore are MOOCs, which simply stands for Massive Open Online Courses. So again, if you're looking for interest courses, even certified courses or licenses, there's often a free platform on some of these sites that you're seeing now. OpenLearn, FutureLearn, Coursera, edX, lots and lots of potential learning and training can take place on there. And of a good quality. They are put together typically by universities, not always, but typically. So they're well thought out, well prepared training courses that you have access to on there. There's a few there. There's obviously more. So please, again, if you want to explore this in more detail, look at these sites and come into the career service if you want to explore what might be best for you and look for other opportunities as well. So as I mentioned, Student Hub it contains all of our resources and information. So do go on there if you haven't already, and you can search further for all those types of opportunities I've mentioned. But you can also gain access to some very useful resources because you want to be able to effectively use the development of your skills and put that into application, interview form, so that it's going to have more beneficial effect for you in the future. And for that reason, we've got some additional resources to help support you develop those skills, such as the career set, which deals with CV, tailoring CVs, cover letters. We have a LinkedIn optimization tool now also within Career Set, which helps you to develop your network, your connections, and ultimately get the most out of your LinkedIn. And as I mentioned before, we've got a whole range of workshops, events, and ability to book appointments with the careers advisor on Student Hub. So in summary, it is very important to develop your employability skills. It is equally important to develop specific enterprising skills in there as part of that process. So be curious, do look at new ways to broaden your skills and attributes. There is lots of opportunities, as I mentioned already, there waiting for you to tap into. But it's not just about doing that. It's also about recognizing what you are developing when you do take part in any of those activities or tasks I've mentioned. So take on new work experiences, volunteering, placements, internships. Look at your current commitments and past commitments, whether that be part-time jobs, work, and think, what have I developed? What has this demonstrated for me? What can I do to take this further? And do take notes, most importantly, as you go through this process. The final thing I would like to show you is a direct link. No, I'm not actually.